February 18th, 2001. A cold, gray afternoon in Foxstone Park, Virginia. A 56-year-old man, looking like a typical, unassuming suburban grandfather, pulls his car into a quiet parking lot. He's dressed in a simple black overcoat, blending perfectly into the winter landscape. In his hand, he carries a weathered plastic bag, sealed with a single strip of blue adhesive tape. He walks toward a wooden footbridge, his steps rhythmic and practiced. He's been here before, dozens of times. He places the bag in the damp shadows under the bridge, looks around once, and turns to walk away. In his mind, he is invisible. He is the ghost who has outsmarted the most powerful intelligence agency on Earth for over 2 decades. But as he reaches his car, the woods suddenly explode with light and motion. Dozens of elite FBI agents, weapons drawn, scream for him to get on the ground. Most men would have collapsed in terror. But Robert Hanssen? He looked at the agents with a cold, almost disappointed stare. He didn't ask about his family. He didn't ask about his rights. He simply uttered 7 words that would haunt the Bureau for the next quarter-century. What took you so long? This was Robert Hanssen. And he wasn't just a traitor. He was the FBI's gatekeeper. He was the man specifically tasked with hunting down the very moles he had spent 22 years helping. He was the asset within, the most devastating security breach in the history of the United States. To his neighbors in Vienna, Virginia, Bob was a devout Catholic, a dedicated family man with 6 children, and a boring bureaucrat. To his colleagues at the FBI, he was a brilliant, albeit eccentric, counterintelligence expert who lived and breathed the hunt for Soviet spies. He was the impenetrable fortress. He was the wall that was supposed to keep the Russians out. But inside that wall, a parasite was thriving. A parasite who understood the FBI's blind spots better than the director himself. Why did the FBI fail to suspect him for 22 years? It wasn't because he was a master of disguise. It was because he wore the mask of authority so perfectly that no one dared to look behind it. Welcome to Phase 1 of our investigation. The cognitive disruption. In the world of high-stakes espionage, we are trained to look for the other. We look for the rebel, the outsider, the man who hates the system. Hanssen didn't just fit into the system. He was the system. He proved that the most invisible traitor is the one who hides in plain sight by being exactly who you expect them to be.
To understand how Robert Hanssen survived for 22 years without a single slip-up, we have to look at Phase 3, the ghost in the system. In 1979, Hanssen, a relatively new agent, made a choice that would shift the tectonic plates of the Cold War. He didn't walk into the Soviet embassy. He didn't call a suspicious number. He utilized the most untraceable method known to man, an anonymous letter sent through the public mail system. He didn't give them his name. He gave them a code name, Ramon Garcia. And he gave them a piece of information that chilled the Kremlin to the bone: the identity of a high-ranking Soviet general, Dmitry Polyakov, who was secretly working as a triple agent for the FBI. Within months, Polyakov was executed. Hanssen had drawn first blood, and the Russians knew they had found a gold mine. Bava, Hanssen's true genius, wasn't in high-tech gadgets. It was in his social engineering. He understood that the greatest weakness of any intelligence agency is the paper trail. Most spies get caught because of a face-to-face meeting, a nervous phone call, or a digital footprint. Hanssen eliminated all of them. He became a ghost interacting with other ghosts. He perfected the dead drop method, A dead drop is a prearranged secret location where information is exchanged without the two parties ever seeing each other. For 22 years, Hanssen would drive to remote parks in Northern Virginia, like Foxstone or Nottoway. He would leave encrypted signals on utility poles, a piece of vertical blue tape to signal a ready state, or a chalk mark on a specific fence post to signal danger. He would leave thousands of pages of top-secret documents, blueprints for nuclear satellites, continuity of government plans, and the FBI's own counterintelligence manuals under footbridges, behind trash cans, or taped to the back of park signs. In return, the Russians would leave bags of non-sequential cash or high-quality diamonds. He never knew his handlers' real names. They never knew his. He was a shadow operating in a world of shadows. But as the years passed, it became clear that it wasn't just about the money. While the Russians paid him over $1.4 million in cash and assets, Hanssen was fueled by something much more dangerous: intellectual superiority. He was addicted to the high of outsmarting the most powerful security apparatus on Earth. He viewed the FBI leadership as bureaucratic fools and himself as the only man who truly understood the game. Phase 4: the execution. This is where the story becomes truly surreal. Hanssen would sit at his FBI workstation in the J. Edgar Hoover building and use the Bureau's own classified database, automated case support, to monitor the hunt for himself. He watched in real time as they chased shadows. He watched as they ruined the lives of innocent agents like Brian Kelly, whom they wrongly suspected of being the mole. Hanssen even sat in the same high-level task force meetings where they discussed the traitor in their midst, and he calmly offered expert advice on how to find the very man who was sitting at the table. He wasn't just committing a crime. He was directing a psychological thriller where he was the only one who had read the final chapter. He manipulated the FBI's protocols, turning their procedural strengths into his greatest defense. He knew exactly when the surveillance teams changed shifts. He knew which cameras were real and which were decoys. He was the director of his own escape, hiding inside the very building that was built to catch him. He proved that if you act like you belong, you can get away with anything.
Inspector Denial, our avatar, appears on screen. Now it's time for the authority analysis. This is where we extract the net information gain that separates a common documentary from a deep deconstruction. Why did it take 22 years to find a man who was sitting right in front of them? The answer isn't found in the evidence. It's found in the flaws of human hardware. The first concept you need to master is confirmation bias. The human brain is a pattern-matching machine. Once the FBI labeled Hanssen as a devout patriot, a family man, and a traditionalist, they stopped processing any evidence that contradicted that image. Even when Hanssen's own brother-in-law, Mark Walk, also an FBI agent, reported that Hanssen had unexplainable piles of cash in his home, the Bureau's leadership dismissed it. They couldn't reconcile the image they had of him with the reality of his actions. They suffered from a cognitive blindness that Hanssen exploited with surgical precision. The second concept is authority bias. In a rigid, hierarchical organization like the FBI, people are conditioned to defer to seniority. Hanssen was a high-ranking official with super-user access. When he accessed files he had no business seeing, or when he showed up at the office at 3 a.m. on a Sunday, his subordinates didn't question him. They assumed he had superior knowledge. They saw his actions through the lens of his rank, not his intent. In their minds, a man of his status couldn't possibly be the villain. Hanssen identified the FBI's greatest vulnerability:
the blind spot of trust. Most security systems are designed to stop external threats: the hacker in China, the spy in Russia, the intruder at the gate. But what happens when the threat is internal? What happens when the person tasked with protecting the gate is the one handing out the keys? Hanssen proved that the most devastating security breach is a social breach. He didn't need to hack the computer systems because he had hacked the people running them. He exploited the very culture of the FBI, a culture of loyalty and professional courtesy. He didn't need to pick the locks because he was the one who helped design the security protocols. This is the gist factor. When you understand the psychology of the system, you don't need to fight it. You simply walk through it. Hanssen turned the FBI's corporate culture into his own personal shield, making himself invisible by becoming the most visible version of what the Bureau wanted to see. He taught us that the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one who looks suspicious. It's the one who looks exactly like you.
In the end, even the most perfect ghost leaves a fingerprint. Robert Hanssen wasn't caught by a brilliant FBI investigator or a revolutionary high-tech algorithm. He was caught by the oldest motive in history: greed and betrayal from the other side. A former Russian intelligence officer looking for a way out and a massive payday sold a garbage bag full of Hanssen's original files to the FBI for $7 million. Inside that bag was a recording of a phone call and a trash bag with Hanssen's actual fingerprints on it. The Russians had kept a life insurance policy on their best asset, and eventually they cashed it in. The hunt was finally over. Hanssen was sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole. He was sent to ADX Florence, the Supermax prison in the Colorado Rockies. This is a place designed for the worst of the worst: terrorists, cult leaders, and traitors. For 23 hours a day, he sat in a 7 by 12-foot concrete cell. No sunlight, no human contact, no computer terminal to monitor. Only the echo of his own ego. On June 5, 2023, Robert Hanssen was found dead in his cell. He died as he lived, in total isolation, a man who had betrayed everything and everyone he ever knew. But here is the echo that should keep you awake at night. Robert Hanssen was a product of a pre-digital age. He used plastic bags, utility poles, physical paper, and chalk marks. Today, the asset within has tools that Hanssen could only dream of. They have end-to-end encrypted messaging, cloud-based data exfiltration, and the absolute anonymity of the deep web and decentralized networks. The question isn't whether there is another Robert Hanssen out there. The question is, how many of them are currently sitting in the offices of the world's most powerful organizations? How many of them are watching this video right now, using the very techniques we've discussed to hide their tracks? How many of them are laughing at how primitive Hanssen's methods were? The world changes, technology evolves, but the loophole remains exactly the same. Trust is still the most vulnerable entry point in any system. Whether it's a government agency, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, or your own personal life, the person you trust most is the one who can hurt you most. I am Inspector Denial R, and this has been a deconstruction of the world's most dangerous mask. If you've gained net information today and want to see deeper into the shadows, join the unit by subscribing. In our next investigation, we will break down another impenetrable fortress that isn't as safe as you think. Tell me in the comments, in a world where everyone wears a mask, who do you really trust? Or better yet, are you wearing a mask of your own? Until next time.